Hey, what's going on, brother? Um, yeah, hey, no problem on the question. I'm always happy to talk about that and kind of show people where my mind's at as far as planning out the year. I appreciate that. I too like to kind of have a good idea and a good plan around what's going on. So this is like kind of a little yearly planner that I put together for some of my more competitive athletes, just so that it can help me to kind of really stay on track with where I'm wanting progressions to go each cycle and what I want stuff to look like and the reason that we're doing stuff. So I thought this would probably be the easiest way to kind of show you, kind of my mind frame around where we're going with stuff. So I kind of just break stuff down into, what the focus is or whatever. With obviously competitive athletes, since there's so many aspects of their training that we're trying to kind of work on and focus on. And so then this is just kind of the monthly breakdown and progression of what's going on. So just kind of a general look at where we're at right now. The focus from an Olympic lifting standpoint, Olympic density and battery. So those will be the EMOMs that we will gradually increase the duration and total volume on. Strength stuff, posterior endurance. Obviously, I've talked about kind of what I'm going to do as far as kind of progressing to work on that deadlifting capacity. So right now, doing a lot of muscular endurance training, along with later on in the week some kind of regular strength stuff. We're going to have squat maintenance work over this cycle, so not really trying to build, not really trying to focus on that a whole bunch, since right now and for the next several cycles, really the focus is going to be on that posterior endurance progression that we're going to work. So yeah, squat strength maintenance, as well as just kind of some upper body strength maintenance. Gymnastics stuff, we're going to have essentially like a gymnastics volume build from now until the age group online qualifier at the beginning of May. We're going to do a power anaerobic alactic progression. So these are going to be some of the short, fast, intense bike pieces that you're going to be doing. And then your conditioning work is going to be these three pieces. So I know kind of these numbers might not mean a whole lot to you right now, but this MAP stuff, MAP 4, MAP 3, MAP 2 progressions that you're going to be doing on Monday, along with MAP 7 progressions that you're doing on Fridays, is kind of going to be the bulk of your, just kind of mixed, CrossFit-y type volume accumulation work. And then MAP 9 on Thursdays is essentially just going to be like your aerobic, cyclical, volume, active recovery stuff. From here, so we'll have the age group online qualifier week at the beginning of May. Obviously, like we talked about, that's just going to essentially be practice, kind of see where you're at. We'll look at your 35 to 39 year old division as kind of our marker, which obviously anything that happens here may kind of change where these things go, but this is just kind of the general guideline that I have in mind. From your Olympic density and battery work that we're going to have here during this accumulation phase, that will transition after the age group online qualifier into an intensification phase. So we'll have a 1 week deload after the age group online qualifier, and then a 6 week intensification phase leading up into the French throwdown. So we'll go back to working a little bit more on Olympic strength and intensity. So essentially the idea there is trying to increase our numbers. So you'll have a little bit more percentage-based focus that will kind of gradually try to build up with the intent of hitting PRs or trying to hit PRs, or at least have be in the position to have the capacity to hit high percentages during the French throwdown, in case that is something that comes up in that competition. We'll continue the posterior endurance build, so we'll switch it from a bodybuilding focus into an endurance focus by doing essentially hinging volume with aerobic work. So just basically adding aerobic fatigue to some of that posterior deadlifting, along with some other movement pattern, basically posterior focus, to continue working that muscle endurance. We will, within this intensification phase, we'll have a little bit more squat strength cycle during that time frame to help with those Olympic lifts, along with a focus on knee and hip maintenance. So basically just, rehab, prehab therapy work. Gymnastics intensity during this intensification phase, so more high fatigue work, so some more intense interval pieces, and some essentially higher threshold sets. So working more towards higher volume, basically max effort output sets within your gymnastics work. During this time frame, you'll also work what's called an anaerobic lactic power build. So it'll transition from these shorter duration sets to some longer duration sets. And so within that, we will start to do, we'll transition it from being only cyclical, only doing basically a salt bike, to some mixed sets. So what that might look like. So right here, what this will look like, which you'll see in your training, is basically just, 10 to 15 second sprints with, 2 to 3 minute rests. What this will start to look like will be something like 3 to 4 sets of, something like 10 touch and go power cleans into 10 or something like 6 bar facing burpees. Can't type right now. Into a 15 cal assault bike, and then you'll rest like 5 to 10 minutes between those pieces. So it's these super high output. This will be, still at 100%. Super high output, very, very intense and long duration sets. So this is this lactic power progression that you'll work on leading up into that French throwdown. It's a huge metabolic boost. It's obviously very intense. It's hard to recover from, which you'll see in your programming. That's why you are going to do those on Wednesday nights, ideally, before an easier day, so that you'll have essentially a full active recovery day following those really, really hard and intense pieces. So that's just an example of what that might look like. And then your MAP progressions will essentially just work down from MAP 7 to MAP 6. So instead of being MAP 7s are 10-minute intervals, roughly. MAP 6 is 5-minute intervals. So it'll just be a little bit more intense, a little bit faster, but it'll still be fairly high duration or volume. And then mixed MAP 1s are 30 to 45 second intervals of repeated output. So you'll see what it looks like, but essentially it's just taking this mixed duration or mixed modal higher volume stuff and working it down to where it's a little bit more intense leading into that competition. And then MAP 8 and some running stuff with just kind of getting out of the winter time and getting into more weather where you can actually get out and run. We'll do a little bit of weekly run work leading into your French throwdown. Following that, we'll just cover this first off-season phase, and I'll turn this video off. I do have the rest of the year planned out all the way up until next year's age group online qualifier. But so from here, this is basically your off-season phase from July until September, barring any other potential competitions that you might do. So what this will look like is another accumulation. So coming off of an intensification leading into a competition, you'll have a 1-week deload and then 11 weeks of what we call off-season accumulation phase. Olympic endurance. So we'll take the focus away from hitting PRs and we'll go back essentially to capacity work. So doing doing moderate intensity rowing, biking, running, skiing, stuff like that, in addition to your Olympic lifting work. So you're working under very moderate fatigue, and working on Olympic consistency under that moderate aerobic fatigue. Your posterior endurance progression will transition to mixed volume accumulation. So you'll do essentially repeat interval work with other movements. So that could be burpees or box jump overs. We'll essentially just couple hinging patterns like deadlifts, kettlebell swings, dumbbell snatches with very simple movements. So nothing that's too compounding, but again, just kind of same idea as with this, just adding a moderate amount of aerobic fatigue and muscle fatigue to some of those intervals. From there, we'll, with the squatting stuff, squat endurance, so we'll start to kind of build some volume since this is an accumulation phase, so it won't be super intense. It'll be a little bit of a deload essentially from this heavier squat and Olympic lifting cycle that you'll have for a few weeks to essentially just work on good high quality volume work and endurance along with some strict pressing and pulling combinations. Gymnastic volume under non-fatigue, so we'll do a lot of like EMOMs and basically like capacity type sets for your gymnastics work here. We'll deload from the anaerobic build. As we talked about, this is very stressful in the nervous system, so during this accumulation phase, we'll take that stuff out essentially, so you won't be working that super high power stuff, since it'll be some other things that you'll be working on. Mixed map stuff will essentially just get a little bit more intense, and this mixed map 5 is going to allow for you to build a ton of volume of mixed work. So you'll actually do this, since you won't be doing this anaerobic work, you'll actually do map 5 twice per week. And this is just a really good interval. This is a 3-minute interval. Mixed map 5 is a 3-minute interval, and so it's really, really good for CrossFit competitors to build a ton of volume in that duration in the off season. And then your cyclical work, so this is essentially what this column down here is, your aerobic or cyclical work will be map 7, run and row volume. Run, build, row, volume. So that will be a good amount of your off-season, quote, off-season training stuff, as far as like capacity will be some of this longer duration cyclical volume. This will lead us into the WZA qualifier, which I feel like you should probably do since you'll have a big long break from essentially June until the Open in March. So I say, why not hop on the Wodapalooza qualifier? If not to try to qualify, then at least just again to get a look at that 35 to 39-year-old division that you'll eventually be working on in the following season. So yeah, that's where we are now. I'll share this document or this spreadsheet with you so that you have access to this. This will essentially kind of be your plan and your progressions for each of our kind of major things that we're training over the next year. So we got it planned out. I'd love for your feedback. Thanks, brother.